after the release of the May 2026 report of the horrific sexual abuse by Hamas, they wanted to counter this, and they started creating their fraudulent narrative about being sexually abused, et cetera, et cetera. The best one is that they accuse Israel of all kinds of physical violence, and yet there was no marks on them, right? You see them in videos coming in Turkey with their keffiyehs, and there's nothing on their necks, and there's nothing on their hands. There's no black and blue eyes. There's nothing. There is an image of a girl who's coming out with a neck brace, and then the next day she's smiling without a neck brace. It's a put-on. It's a put-on. They want to besmirch. That's their whole tactic. These are folks trying to break internationally recognized legal blockade of Gaza, which is part of war. It's a normative part of war. They're trying to break that. That means that they're enemy combatants. They were arrested. They were detained. They were humiliated. Definitely. They were humiliated, and they should be exposed for what they are, which is obsessed Israel haters. Did you notice, by the way, the necklace that Katrina was wearing? She was wearing a necklace that had the whole map of Israel on it, and she presumably thinks that should be all Palestine. In other words, she wants to erase Israel. That was the necklace that she was wearing on your show just a minute ago. She wants to erase and destroy Israel. She'll use any tactic, especially lies, and the Christoph report about rape dogs and stuff like that. Sure. That's the new creation that they've manifested, that they've imagined in order to counter the true 250-page report about Hamas sexual abuse, about Hamas terrorists cutting off breasts and doing who knows what awful stuff.
Yeah, but what's interesting to me, though, Yishai, is that you seem very happy to believe absolutely everything that's been alleged that Hamas did, but absolutely nothing that's been alleged by what the Israeli forces have done. And I would simply play you the video of the young woman I just interviewed, Katrina Graham, who was detained on one of these flotillas. This is what happened to her.
Oh, let's go! Check it.
I cut that because we don't need to see the rest of that video.
That's the kind of police action.
Well, just to be clear,
that you would see. Anyway.
But just to be clear, she was shouting "Free, free Palestine."
Did she look like she was sexually abused there?
No, I didn't say that.
She was humiliated. She was detained.
She was physically abused. She was shouting "Free, free Palestine."
Not abuse is not the right word. That was a police action.
You're allowed to say "free, free."
The difference between...
Yeah, but my point is that even when you watch something, which
you can't tell us what you're allowed to say, not allowed to say. She was incarcerated.
No, I can say what I like.
Enemy combatant.
I can say what I like.
Don't tell me what she's allowed.
I can say what I.
Okay, but we don't. But
no, I know you're not going to believe it.
Pierce, but
I'm just saying though that
what we're going to do in our military actions.
No, that's fine.
We have to fight against enemies. She was accosting a minister, and the police brought her down.
She wasn't accosting anybody.
I'm in New York right now.
The video showed her accosting nobody. The video didn't show her accosting anybody.
She was part of a flotilla to try to break a blockade.
Who was she accosting?
She's therefore an enemy combatant.
Who did she accost?
She was accosting the minister. She was accosting the police.
When was she accosting anybody?
Riotous. By the way, Piers, they were treated much worse in the Spanish airport and in Vienna.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what the Israelis did to these detainees. On the very day that people
video,
like...
If you want to use that video as proof of abuse, it's absurdity.
On the day that people like you, and you're perfectly entitled to, but were out there saying all the allegations of mistreatment of detainees are completely untrue and a blood libel against the Israelis and so on, Ben-Gvir, a member of the government, literally posts on his own social media clear, compelling evidence of a young female detainee being physically assaulted.
I would not call that assaulted. I would call that a police action. I think actually that video proves exactly the opposite. That's the extent of it. She was made to sit down. She was made to shut up, and she was causing a problem. They had a lot of detainees.
They wanted to subdue them. Palestine.
She was subdued. She was subdued by the police.
Right.
And that's okay. I don't see that as abuse. The video speaks for itself.
Would you do that to a woman for talking in a way you didn't like?
If I was a police officer concerned with the riot, I certainly would. And I think that video, if that's the extent of the video that you're going to show, and then listen to the rest of their claims about sexual violence, et cetera, rape dogs, and all the stuff that they invent, I think that any a person with eyes could see that is not a proof of abuse. That is a police action that you could see on any corner.
Yeah, I'm afraid.
Yesterday, apparently some of the flotilla solar panels washed up on Gaza shores, but one Palestinian on the scene described as a small source of hope and care. And I say all this because you need the context for understanding why we sailed. And you also need the context to know that this is what the Israelis are doing daily, to understand that they're perfectly capable of brutalizing the flotilla participants, because they're perfectly capable, and they do, with well-documented evidence, brutalize Palestinians every single day. And they kill Palestinians in Gaza every single day. You're asking me to somehow question or debate the fact of Israeli violence. There's no world in which that makes any sense. It's a completely preposterous set of debate parameters. Clearly, the Israeli military and the Israeli forces are astronomically violent to the Palestinians, and I've witnessed firsthand that they were violent to me, to the people next to me, tased, beaten, kicked. I've seen the bruises myself. The Turkish medical authorities kept them in the hospital until last Monday. Are they also lying? Are they also enemy combatants? This is how the logic works. It's so slippery. There is clear, systematic evidence of Israeli violence.
You know, the boat where they allegedly found drugs and condoms on board? Okay, well, they're now back in their own countries of origin. And you got to see this, okay? They're faking mistreatment. Now, I'm just going to roll this vision while we're on. So on the left-hand side here, she's in a neck brace. I can't talk, can barely talk. Well, suddenly there she is on the right-hand side. Whoa, emerging. She's leaped out of security at the airport. What an incredible turn of events. An incredible turn of events. Can you believe it? And greeted with flowers. So in a neck brace, while in Israel, can barely speak on the left-hand side, but just incredibly back on home soil and has made a miraculous recovery. How did she do it? Thank you, God. Thank you, God. And now I'm going to show you another clip as well. And it just seems to get worse, and it gets, quite frankly, actually more embarrassing, to be honest. Okay, so in this first clip that I'm showing you here, this is a bunch of men, okay? They've just landed in Turkey, okay? So they're walking, they're fine, right? They're fine. No problems here. Everything seems to be going accordingly. They're standing, walking straight. I mean, that looks normal to you, doesn't it? Looks normal to you? Okay. Well, now I'm going to show you this clip, right, of a couple of hours earlier. I'm just going to bring it up and just see what you notice might be a little bit different between the men. Oh dear. No, wait, no. They're being pushed around. They're being wheeled around because, well, they can't move apparently. They're just struggling. This is in Israel. The mistreatment that they allege. There they are, on beds being wheeled around. Compare and contrast. But just, it's quite incredible, isn't it?
The flotilla members themselves were accused of sexual misconduct on the ships, including this Diego Avila, that one of the Palestinian organizations were like, this guy's making sexual trouble for the other participants. But in any case, they weren't going to bring any humanitarian aid. The humanitarian aid comes through Israel. We have 100,000 humanitarian aid trucks have come in, 1.7 million tons of food, 55 tons of medical needs have come through. These guys, the flotilla guys, they're not about helping Palestinians. This whole thing is a sham. This guy is, in fact, a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's a pro-jihad shill. If you go through his X account, you'll not see anything about the Sudanese 14 million people that have been displaced, or the Iranian people that 40,000 people have been murdered in the streets, or Nigeria. He doesn't care. He has one goal. His goal is to besmirch Israel. That's his little role. He's a lackey of the jihad to do that. His job is to besmirch our name around the world. When he came off, he said that he was tied, and his hands, we saw his wrists, nothing on it. The whole thing is a sham. He is part of an enemy combatant. He was treated as such by the Israeli military and the Israeli police. He was humiliated, as he should be, and he should be exposed for what he really is, which is an obsessed person with Israel, a person who lies constantly and consistently, a person who doesn't tell you the truth. I have been an Israeli soldier. I have been at those checkpoints. I've dealt with Arabs, and I know about the decency and the dignity that we have to maintain, that we try to maintain, while at the same time fighting the jihad, fighting a world with an ideology to destroy Israel, to destroy our small Jewish state. That's what this thing's about. These people, by the way, his organization, they don't even capitalize the word Israel. They purposefully decapitalize it so that they could be like, to show how repugnant Israel to them, how much they want to see it destroyed. He doesn't want to see two states living side by side. He doesn't want to see rights for Palestinians. He wants to see the destruction of Israel. That's what he is. He's just a wolf in sheep's clothing. He puts on liberal, humanitarian, this look, I'm helping people. You're not helping anybody. You're just making trouble, and you were beaten. Not by Israel, but by the Spaniards and Vienna and other places, beaten around the world for being troublemakers. In Israel, they were humiliated, as they should have been, and really they should be exposed for the liars that they are.
Okay.
An amazing decolonialization project, the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. If Alex was actually liberal or progressive or whatever he calls himself, he would want to protect the Jewish people, a tiny minority in the region which suffers at the hands of a 100-year war against us to destroy us. Let's call it the jihad or Arab nationalism. And yet we survive miraculously, amazingly. And we push back on enemies. We try to treat friends and people who love Israel with dignity and with upward mobility. And anybody who comes to Israel can see that. Anybody could see that. So all these things that he claims, there's evidence. There is no evidence. The best evidence that you brought on the show is this video of a girl getting pushed down after yelling at police and a minister. Any American police officer would do the same thing in just a second. That's your proof. That's your stuff. And we all understand what's happening here. The real awful crime, the Holocaust-like crime of October 7th, and the real disgusting the mechanized sexual abuse that happened was detailed in the report. They had to hide that. Their offense was to create this whole narrative of sexual abuse. That's what they do. And this guy, Alex, he keeps saying, oh, it's totally obvious. It's absurd that we have to discuss it. He only says these things because all he knows are little canned responses. He has canned responses. He says, well, everybody knows, you know it. He doesn't have anything. It's all a sham. And he's a shill for the jihad. He's a front for the jihad. And Arabs, real Arabs, who want liberty and freedom, want to see a stronger Israel that will provide liberty for the region and not the succumbing to the Hamas, which he basically works for, or the Iranian regime, or the Turks. We all know that they're behind this as well. He came in on a flotilla, tried to break through Israel, got arrested, got his ass kicked out of there, and now he's crying, look what they did to me, look what they do to the world. The whole thing is a game to besmirch Israel, and everybody could see through it. And he was humiliated. I hope he's humiliated again and exposed for the liar that he is.
Okay. Something's not adding up.
Allow me to finish my point before you jump to the next one, please.
Okay.
Iran tried to march to a nuclear bomb. It did not happen. It will not happen. The U.S. and Israel actually showed them that we are determined. We are serious about it. It would have been much, much easier to ignore it and to say, you know what, it's not happening. Maybe next year we'll deal with that. That's what too many leaders did. And look what happened with North Korea. So the president of the United States, together with Prime Minister Netanyahu, they decided not to allow it to happen. And that's exactly what they did. Well, it's not perfect. It's not easy. War, it's a complicated issue. But today, Iran is not in a position they were before that they will decide when to actually build a bomb or use it. It's not on the table anymore. And that is the best achievement of this operation. But I agree with you. We have more to achieve. We should not allow them to go back and to reassemble their capabilities. And that's why we have to make sure that if there is an agreement with them, it will be a real strong, enforceable agreement, not like the JCPOA.
Being abused.
Let's be clear about the facts. First, this report goes back to the year of 2025, and it speaks about sexual crimes as a method.
But I'm talking about the abuse of this woman in front of our eyes. I'm not saying sexual, but I'm saying it is actually abuse.
I think that what you are replying is to the flotilla that, people tried to get into Gaza and were arrested and deported. And I am not aware of any sexual abuse about that. But, let's look at the facts. We have detainees, but we treat them according to the law.
Well, hang on. OK, but Danny Danon, look, the flotilla's organisers have alleged there are at least 15 examples of sexual assaults. You can deny that. We haven't seen the evidence of that either way.
Show me the facts. Show me one
OK,
complaint.
you can deny that. You can deny that. But when we see the video that Ben Gvir proudly posted, we can see a young woman being physically abused not sexually, not saying that, but being physically abused. Do you condemn that abuse? And do you accept that when one of your own government ministers is gleefully celebrating actual abuse that we see with our own eyes of a young woman, that it flies in the face of these blanket denials of any mishandling or any mistreatment of detainees?
So let's be clear about the facts. First, we condemn any sexual abuse worldwide. You know, when you look at the horrible picture of what's happening today in some countries in Africa, in Sudan, and you read the report and you see that there were thousands of cases. You know what they said about Israel? They said that there are some reports of 31 cases. Why they didn't share them with us?
Okay, let me just try and be, I don't want to be pedantic, but let me just play you the video that I'm talking about, that Ben Gvir posted.
Free Palestine!
שקט. טובה. עבודה טובה. ברוכים הבאים לישראל, אנחנו בעלי הבית. ככה צריך.
Now, when you see what happened to that woman at the start of that video, what do you feel about that?
Well, I haven't seen any sexual abuse in that video.
I didn't say sexual abuse. I was very specific.
Well, we are talking about sexual abuse.
She was being physically abused, right? I mean, do you accept that,
Danny? You haven't shown what happened before. And from my experience...
She shouted, free Palestine, and for that she got physically abused.
What she did before. So many times when you show part of the videos, and she was detained. She was illegally trying to break into Gaza. She was detained.
So you don't condemn the way she was treated.
Maybe you will show the audience the videos, what happened to those people when they arrived to Spain and other locations in Europe.
No, I'm asking specifically about her being physically abused in the way we saw on that video. You either want to condemn it or you don't.
I don't think she was abused. And by the way, those detainees, when they arrived to Europe after we deported them, they conducted riots at the airports. And you should see how the authorities in Spain treated them.
I don't really care about what I haven't got the Spanish ambassador on the show, so
I can send you the video. You can show to the audience that
send me the video. Send me the video. But I'm more interested in what your own government minister gleefully put out on his social media account, because it's that kind of thing, Danny Danon, which causes enormous damage to that kind of behaviour from high-profile ministers, knowing the damage it causes to your country's reputation. Why don't you just condemn it?
We have a strong democracy. We have freedom of speech. We have more than 30 ministers. But at the end of the day, you have to look at the policy of the government. I'm proud of our soldiers. I'm proud of the way they conduct the defense of our people. And it's not easy, but we keep morality. It's a value for us, and we will continue to do that. And that's what makes the difference between us and the terrorists we are fighting.
Okay, but I don't think manhandling and physically assaulting a young woman when she says free Palestine is the best way of proving what you've just said.
Well, maybe, but as I told you, you have to look what happened before, what she did before. And many times when you have riots and the police interfere, it's not pleasant. But when we speak about the report of the UN, there is no connection between what you show to that report. And that's the problem with the attacks against Israel. You take pieces of information, you put it together, and you create the narrative. Exactly like the New York Times.
Well, I didn't put any information together. I just up and misconstruing it. But it's your guy, Ben Gvir, posting it on his social media with that specific cut. He chose to show the world that, and chose to show the world he celebrated it. And so when I hear you say there's never been any manhandling or mistreatment of detainees, I say I've just literally played a clip put out by your guy, Ben Gvir, from your government, which gleefully celebrates a young detainee woman being physically assaulted. And you can't find it in yourself to condemn it. And I find that bizarre. The easier thing to do would be to say he was completely out of order, which even your Prime Minister condemned it. But you seem too reluctant. Why?
You know, I condemn those people who try to break into Israel, create chaos, those anarchists, you know, that they demonstrate, you know, in their capital and then come to Israel. And with all the respect, you know, I saw that video. I was not shocked by it. You know, it wasn't like an accident. You know, she came to create provocations. She was detained. And while she was detained, she tried to create more provocations.
Okay.
And we started this conversation about blaming us for conducting sexual crimes. And then at the end of the day, we finished the conversation about this incident.